Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Reasonable Doubt, brought to you by the Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association. I'm your host, Jimmy Ardwan, along with my co-host, Julio Vela. Julio, what's going on, my friend?
Ready, man.
You ready?
Ready.
We have in the house with us tonight, you know him as the Czar. He is criminal defense lawyer, former HCCLA president, Rob Fickman. Rob, thanks for joining us tonight.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, anytime.
Like old-timey.
It is like old time. You hosted this show for a while.
I did, for a couple years.
And, you know, Dan Gerson started it. Did you take it over after him?
No, it was Dan Gerson, and then and I'm sure the viewers are fascinated by it, but it was Danny Gerson, and then Cindy Henley, and then me, and then Todd for about 4 decades, and then y'all. Todd was the hero of HCCLA for doing it for so long. I don't know how it didn't drive me insane. Well, I did it for a couple of years.
We're glad to have you back in the studio tonight.
And that guy was here.
We will be taking your phone calls, right? We will be taking your phone calls tonight, ladies and gentlemen, starting around 8:30. 713-807-1794 is the number. We also have Twitter up at HCCLA_TV. You can send us your question and comments right here live on the show. All right, guys, let's get right to it. Johnny Manziel back in the news again. Today, he was suspended for 4 games by the NFL. No team has signed him, of course, because he's got this huge domestic violence case going on in Dallas. And it's just been a bad couple of weeks for him, a real bad look. First, I guess we call him the fixer lawyer, at least that's how I've understood him to be, Bob Hinton, up in Dallas. He's also got Jim Darnell out of El Paso, but Hinton sends a...
They're both good lawyers.
Both good lawyers, but Hinton apparently errantly sends a text message to the Associated Press about seeking a plea deal, and he's not sure whether his client can even make it and stay clean. I mean, not a good look.
That's not good.
Not a good look at all.
Now, was it sent to the Associated Press, or was it sent to someone else and then it got to the Associated Press?
No, it was sent directly to a reporter. Apparently, the reporter and Hinton had exchanged text messages before, and I guess, you know, errantly he was...
Kind of off-the-record conversation?
Well, no, it wasn't even an off-the-record conversation. He was intending to send the text to somebody else.
Oh.
And he wasn't paying attention.
He sent it to the reporter.
He sent it to the reporter, and the reporter, instead of texting Hinton back and saying, hey, don't think you meant to send this to me.
Took full advantage.
Took full advantage of the situation.
Well, no comment on the reporter, but, but you know, it's putting something in writing, and it's like, to quote our hero Racehorse, he said the E in email stood for evidence.
Yeah.
So be careful what you put in writing.
Well, and so this week...
Careful what you say. Well, in this country right now, be careful what you say.
Yeah, no joke, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but Hinton resigned from the case.
You know what I'm talking about.
So Hinton resigns from the case this week.
Yeah, I guess he had no choice, really. I mean, it's really humiliating.
It is. Yeah. But the interesting thing about this case is, aside from the fact that it's Manziel, he's the Heisman winner from Texas A&M, he's out partying up in Vegas. His dad's out there saying he's still using drugs. His lawyer sends this text saying, I don't know if he can stay clean.
Right.
And yet the guy's still on bond.
And he goes to Cabo.
Well, and I heard he made a statement that that he was going to be sober effective July 1st or 4th or something like that. Like he set a date by, it'd be kind of like, you know, I'm going to keep doing the partying, but on that day, it's, you know, I know he has a lot of issues, I'd say.
He does.
Right? I mean, a lot of people, young athletes can't handle the torque, you know. It's a lot of money and a lot of fame, and it's too bad. He's a great athlete.
How old is he? Like 24?
23, 24.
Yeah, I mean.
23, you know. 24, and then there's this photo that pops up at the same luxury villa he's staying at with a bunch of baggies.
Well, you think if your nickname was, you know, he's Johnny Football, if you were like Johnny Lawyer or something, you know, and then everybody's worshiping you, and the whole college worships you, and every woman is offering herself up to you, and half the male population too, and whatever. And I mean, and you know, you're the greatest hero in the whole state, and you like to party. I mean, it's a bad combination.
But this is a clear case where money and fame really keeps you out of a lot of trouble that you otherwise might get in, because I mean, if it were any of our clients on regular clients, they'd have their bond yanked so fast.
They'd be in jail already.
Yeah.
Well, and I think he's tweeting his Cabo vacation.
Right.
I mean, he's wearing a Browns jersey. He's flying on the plane. He's tweeting. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Travel must not have out of the country must not
Really
have been a
wasn't a
condition of his bond. I don't know.
I've got some pretty loose travel restrictions.
Apparently.
You can drink. I had a client once that was, as a condition of her probation, it was that she could not drink excessively.
That's awesome.
First it was that she couldn't drink, and then I told the judge, I said, well, Judge, she does a lot of charity events where there's a glass of wine offered, and she knows she's going to be going to these charity events. And he said, all right, then the condition will be that she cannot drink excessively. And then she asked me, well, what does that mean? I said, don't get arrested. So.
I had this one girl. She was a stripper I was representing. And
You had to go there, didn't you?
she was a stripper. And so we had to go to the judge. As a condition of probation, you have to stay away from places of disrepute.
Ill repute.
Right, ill repute. And I said, well, Judge, she's a dancer. This is what she does. And I said, we can't, ultimately, the finishing line was, Judge, she just wants to dance.
Yeah, I like it.
So she could dance. So the judge said, fine, you can pick one place and that's where you can dance. And it worked.
Well, who's to judge?
Well, and like you guys said, we've all had these clients. They clearly, they have substance abuse issues. They just can't stay clean. And obviously, we don't know what the evidence is yet. We've seen, obviously, we had the police report that we read that got leaked. And maybe some of that's true, maybe it's not true. There hadn't been a jury trial yet. He hasn't pled guilty to it. He hadn't entered a plea agreement. But from a standpoint of a defense lawyer, he's apparently trying to negotiate a plea deal. But this is really problematic to put someone on probation with all these issues out there that you know about. I mean, you're kind of setting them up for failure, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, we all know that. If we have a client who's apt to act on impulse, likes to party, I mean, they're not going to succeed on a probation. And especially over the years I've seen, I mean, probations get harder and harder, and judges tend to put more and more conditions on the probation so that, yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, I've seen prosecutors agree to a probation for somebody and they've called it layaway because they know that eventually that person's going to get sent to wherever because they're going to mess up. So anyway, be careful what you ask for, I guess.
And the plea deal, I'd imagine it would involve some sort of affirmative finding of family violence. And it's like,
is this his first one or second one?
I think it's his first.
For domestic violence.
Because he'd been in some big brouhaha before, too.
Yeah, I think he had, when he was before his freshman year or during his freshman year at A&M, he got into some
argument
issue
with a
in
girlfriend.
I don't know if it was an argument, a domestic violence situation, or just a bar fight situation. I can't remember exactly, but he's definitely has at least a minor criminal history at this point.
But you're right, his fame has probably given him a lot more latitude than any of our other clients, and that just points out an injustice in the justice system that who you are makes a difference when it shouldn't.
Do you think it will from the prosecutor's standpoint? Because if they are trying to negotiate a plea deal, and if you're the prosecutor...
Depends on what football team they like.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah, it's so much true.
That's
It
true.
depends on if they're an Aggie.
Yeah.
If he's an Aggie, I mean, the loyalty between Aggies is so strong.
Well, and they've got so many problems in the DA's office up there with that bribery issue that they just had, where the investigators bribing.
Yeah.
Accepted a bribe to help get a case dismissed for somebody, and was
maybe he just thought of it as a gratuity.
Yeah.
Well, I think they even set up it was couched in a investment into some business. I want to get into this business. You give me some money. Your case goes away.
Simultaneously, when the case is being dismissed.
Yeah. Yes. And
just a wild coincidence.
And at the same time, the DA over there is going cuckoo and not even doing her duties.
I mean, the DA's office up there seems to be a mess. I mean, obviously,
which county is it?
Dallas County.
Okay.
She took a leave of absence.
Oh, yeah, they do have a lot of problems there.
Yeah.
She took a leave of absence because of personal issues or something. Maybe she had some mental health issues. I'm not sure.
She did. She actually, I think she came to Manager here in Houston for a while.
Okay. Well, you can't hold it against somebody for having mental health issues.
No.
And, if they have them and they seek treatment, then you can't hold them against, you shouldn't, I don't think. Yeah. Nobody ever asked to have mental health issues. I know I never asked for any of mine. So that shouldn't be held against her. But the rest of the stuff they're really kind of going crazy up there.
Assuming they
are. It is Dallas.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Which I once posed the question is if you have a 10-minute layover in Dallas, does that in and of itself make you an asshole? Okay.
Have you seen that billboard along the freeways about that craft beer that's brewed up in Dallas?
What?
It's something about a reason to hate Dallas less. That's their billboard.
I don't know. I mean,
They're trying to
bring them on
market it here in
themselves.
Houston.
American Airlines having its hub there doesn't help. It's like
Yeah.
the worst airline in the universe.
But if you guys are Johnny Football's legal team and you are trying to seek a plea deal, what exactly are you trying to seek for this guy? I mean, given his multitude of problems.
I wouldn't want him on a probation.
Yeah.
I think that's just asking for trouble. I mean, what probation could he succeed?
I don't think there's any.
I think you just try to get, probably the best outcome for him would be get it reduced to some non-family violence assault, and just a straight plea on an assault and take the misdemeanor conviction, no probation, and cut the family violence part out because he's a famous football player, so he can get on. Because how's he going to do all the conditions if he has to travel anyway?
I don't think he is.
Well, he might get on a team.
He says he's going sober, man. He's going
He
sober.
says he's going sober.
Yeah, he's going sober July 1st or 5th.
is that
Given the history of the Texans, we'll probably draft him.
Is that like
know?
the remake of the Brooks and Dunn song, Going Country, Going Sober now?
Speaking of, there was another 10-game suspension for substance abuse out of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, Rolando McClain. Yeah.
Dallas having all sorts of problems.
Dallas Cowboys always, there used to be a joke about Dallas Cowboys. It's like 4 Dallas Cowboys, who's driving the car, the Dallas Police Department,
But
I need a snare drum in here.
yeah, right. We should get one queued up.
Bada
We
bing.
need to get one queued up. But I mean, given all the problems with the Dallas County District Attorney's Office, I mean, is this a situation where if Susan Hawk, who's facing a lot of challengers and people trying to take her job, given the attention on NFL players and domestic violence, given how high profile this guy is, and he's just kind of flaunting it in their face,
He is.
do they need to come down a little bit harder on him, or at least draw a harder line than maybe they would in other?
Well, logic
violence
would
cases?
dictate that they would, but that doesn't mean they will.
Yeah.
I mean, good point, but I don't, who knows? I mean, as you're saying, they're not doing things as you would normally expect.
No.
So who knows?
I mean, to my knowledge, they haven't sought to revoke his bond.
Yeah, he's in, what'd you say, in Cabo?
He's in Cabo right now, and there was
One of the
another,
conditions of my bond is that I stay drunk.
Yeah.
well, and he's flaunting it, and I think in one of them, the latest tweet, he's smoking this huge spliff, and he's like, he's just smoking this thing, and it's just, he's tweeting it along, and there's, I mean.
But on the other hand, the DA's office might be going like, well, just give him enough rope.
And he'll hang himself.
Yeah,
And
I mean, they got all these pictures he's putting out there. People, it's like what they put about themselves on Facebook. It's like, oh, good God.
I was working on this case. I was kind of doing the back work. So the guy's accused of killing somebody, and his Facebook is Assassin so-and-so.
That's his nickname?
That's his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
kind of like the guy in Vegas, the UFC fighter who was accused of beating his wife. His name was War Machine.
That always
Legal
helps.
name was War Machine.
I've heard of a guy whose nickname in Houston, his actual nickname is Murder. That's like, how, like when a girl knows him and brings him home to meet her parents.
I mean, how'd you
my
like-
boyfriend Murder.
How'd you like to do that before dire?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen,
No, you don't want to.
my client is charged with domestic violence.
Well, it's like
His name
having
is War
face
Machine.
tattoos.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, those MS-13 guys, and they got all that stuff all over their face, and it's like, voir dire on that.
That's when you put the picture up of Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg, and you say, "Who's the felon here? Who's the felon?"
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm sure we're going to get some more juicy tidbits out of this Manziel case to come up on.
I want to see a trial.
It's never going to go to trial.
I would love to be paid $100,000. How much money they're paying these guys for a plea deal?
It's not going
On
to
a misdemeanor. I'd love to. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's not going to trial.
I don't know.
We'll
No way to know that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know all the details.
we're going to move on. Interesting article, guys, this week in the Texas Tribune about wrongful convictions have cost the state of Texas $93 million over the past 25 years.
That's the ones we know about.
Exactly.
Right.
It seems, as some people might look at that and say, whoa, $93 million, but it's over 25 years. That seems really low to me. Really low, especially
Yeah, but also
given-
remember that for a long time, it was very hard for a person who was exonerated to even get 15 cents out of the state of Texas.
Which is my
The state
point.
of Texas had
Yeah.
no conscience about it. It would be like, you know, John, we're sorry. You spent the 30 years in prison, and now when we goofed, and we just want to say we're sorry, and we've got a coffee mug and a koozie over here for you. And it's got the DA's logo on it, so you can have that, and good luck to you now. I mean, they weren't giving people, they weren't compensating people for having stolen their lives. It's only in recent time that's come about. I bet most of that money has been paid out in the last 10 years.
Yeah, I think so, because the compensation program that was enacted didn't happen until 2009.
There you go. Plus, even when somebody's exonerated, in some DA's offices in this state still fight giving somebody money when it's quite obvious that they were not guilty, and they got basically set up by the district attorney's office in whatever county it was. I mean, and they still fight giving them any money. It's like, well, he wasn't cleared the way we want him to be cleared. He didn't meet the 4 prongs or whatever, and it's just another way of screwing the person.
That's exactly right. There's a case where the guy, his case gets dismissed, but since he wasn't found, or wasn't actually proven actually innocent,
Yeah.
they're not giving this guy the compensation that he deserves. His conviction was overturned. He's been in prison. He's lost his life. But because he wasn't declared actually innocent, no money for this guy.
Jerry, trying to think of his name. Trying to hear his name.
Jerry Max Cook. Kerry Max Cook.
Max Cook.
That was the one Paul Nugent just handled up in Smith County. Yeah. He got his case thrown out.
No, so the state is not like eager to give people money. It's almost like this. Like if a person it's not almost like this, it is this way, I think. If a person's convicted and then later exonerated, the state even then is grudging about doing something about, like, well, okay, so you turned out you're innocent, but it's almost like you put us through a lot of trouble, when it's like, no, the innocent guy didn't put you through the trouble, you sorry bastards. The innocent person is the person that you punished for all these years. And it's the state of Texas's mentality, which is, if you want to say there's a mentality, it's somewhere in about 1840.
Well, and what was Scalia, even before his death, had written an opinion about how you can execute someone even if they're actually innocent, if they get the death penalty.
Yeah.
I mean, just absurd rulings like that.
I don't think that was the founder's intent.
No, not at all. I mean, this article, I read this and I'm kind of thinking, like, well, this is really a bunch of crap. I mean, $93 million. One, it's not that much money. They try to make it sound like it's a whole bunch of money that's been paid out. I mean, that's a drop in the bucket.
I still think they're taxed, aren't they? Like they have to pay taxes on.
Question. I don't know if they are.
I don't know, but I mean, from what I understood, like it's not like, oh, it's not taxable.
I thought it was tax-free.
Is it?
I don't know.
I don't know if it. I mean, I hope it's
probably
not.
Get somebody here that knows some law.
Yeah, I know. If you know this, call us. But I mean,
you were an expert in tax law, Julio.
Oh,
That's why we brought you on the
That
show.
is underneath on the show. It says
tax
lawyer.
Tax
That's
law.
why we hired you, man.
Hey, look. Lowering your tax liability is legal. Tax evasion is not.
That's some great advice.
That is great
That's
advice,
all I have.
Dan.
That's all I have.
I'm glad I'm here. So I know that now.
I mean, that was well worth the
Thanks.
price of admission.
How many people, though, have been killed, and how many people have been wrongly incarcerated who deserve compensation but aren't?
A lot.
A lot.
Probably there's no doubt that right now, as we sit here right now, that there are innocent people behind bars, and that's just fact of life.
You know, there was another article that came out, speaking of the people put to death, Johnny Holmes apparently was one of the leading executioners that has ever lived.
And which, if you think about that, it means that the character, personality of the prosecutor, of the elected DA, is the dominant force in determining how many people get the death penalty in that county, when that shouldn't play any part whatsoever in it.
No.
It should be, if we're going to have the death penalty, it ought to be decided by the facts and the law, not by the personality and how chicken fried the district attorney happens to be.
Yeah.
And it's like, when Chuck Rosenthal was DA, he was very hot on death penalty as well. But then when he got out of office, his defense was he was using pills. At the same time, he was making decisions on who should get the death penalty. So there's a lot wrong in this state, and that's one of the things that's wrong is the fact that individuals get to decide who we seek the death penalty against. Elected district attorneys. I'm not suggesting a solution because that would be like I'm in support of the death penalty, which I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't. But it clearly allowing it to be dictated by the personality of the elected district attorney who has political motivation is completely wrong.
Now, of course, our friend Kevin Fine, when he was judge, he declared the death penalty unconstitutional.
He did. And that lasted for a few minutes.
Yeah, a very short amount of time. But Elsa Alcala, one of the newer judges on the Court of Criminal Appeals, she issued a dissent recently and kind of said it's time to reevaluate the death penalty in Texas.
Well, it is. I mean, we led the world for a number of years in sending people to death row. I mean, the rest of the world, Europe, and what we call civilized nations, they send students to Houston, Texas to study us like we're some kind of alien planet because we're so pro-death penalty, which of course is ironic given that we're also so pro-life. We're very in favor of your life as long as you're in the womb. Once you get out of the womb, then screw you, we want to kill you.
We want to take it.
No, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, but given what Justice Alcala recently wrote, do you think there will be at least, I don't know, in the next 10 years, are we going to get more of a push? Do we possibly have some judges that may get on the bench in the future that we can have the chance to evaluate this? Do you think that's possible?
I think a lot of it's going to depend on what happens in the upcoming presidential election because we've had a very conservative Supreme Court since the 70s. Thank you, Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
Rest in hell. And, we have the next president will probably fill 2 spots on the Supreme Court, and it could dramatically change the Supreme Court. I think what happens with the Supreme Court will dictate a lot in terms of death penalty law, clearly.
Yeah. Interesting, though. I mean, we had a plethora of opinions last week. And
yeah, some different stuff, too.
Yeah, and we had a couple that were 4-4. And, a lot of people, the whole Merrick Garland nomination, it's kind of fallen off. Nobody's really even talking about how
I think we're so close to the election now that the Congress and the Senate are so dysfunctional as it is that, the president's seemingly, I think he's given up on trying to get that through. I mean, the Republican Party, the senators, chinless Mitch McConnell. He actually has no chin if you look at his face. Chinless Mitch McConnell.
You've studied his facial features much more than I have.
Yeah, it was in a science fiction class. The guy is just all about no.
If you want to know where Rob Fickman stands on politics, just go to his Twitter handle @rfickman, and you'll see some very interesting.
No wonder I'm not going to get business.
Commentaries. But
I didn't say Trump was a fascist.
No,
I didn't say out loud he was a fascist. I didn't say he met all the criteria of being a fascist. Umberto Eco wrote an article about the 14 criteria for fascism, and I didn't say that he met all those criteria. But I'm pretty well convinced that he does.
Yeah, you made a pretty compelling circumstantial case.
Yeah, it's really an interesting article because Umberto Eco wrote this years ago, and I know this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but he wrote the article
an open book here.
Years ago, and maybe 10, 15 years ago, and it really said, it's a very short article, and it sets out the 14 criteria that you'll find in a fascist government or regime. And you go down the list, and where the very first one is, in a fascist regime, they'll find target a minority group, usually immigrants, to blame everything on. And you look at the Trump playbook, and that's the first thing out of the book, right?
Mexicans.
Send in, your people,
Yeah, my peeps.
you people.
Yeah.
Well,
That's me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
We've all been persecuted at some point, except for Jimmy. But
the bottom line is that a bigot doesn't discriminate against. I mean, they discriminate against.
yeah,
everybody,
sure.
He hates you. He hates me. He hates you. Anyway, this is, I guess, off topic.
No, there's
Sorry.
not.
Oh, no, it's good. It's good.
I want to get off topic a little bit because you bring an interesting point about the upcoming election. Where, in this, just your opinion, where do you see potentially this election going for Harris County? I mean, nobody really knows, and I'm wondering what your sense is.
It's very hard to say because there's so many of the angry white males that constitute Harris County will vote for Trump. That's his support base. And then we have a growing Hispanic population. So I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I really don't know. It could be very close. It could be closer than we might expect. I mean, Harris County's been Republican for so long, and now and then, like when Obama came in, that was one brief moment where it was Democrat, but
the
that
DA
didn't last
still
long.
went. The DA still went Republican.
Yeah, and even so, the lower you go down lower on the ticket, and people get elected. And also a lot of it has to do with names. I remember a certain woman, I'm not going to say her name, who lost, and she was white.
Yeah.
She lost because people thought she had a black-sounding name, which was just pure racism, and that's what it was attributed to. Is why she lost.
What do you think are the biggest potentials either way? I mean, to affect the criminal justice system in Harris County. I mean, let's say in November, the Republicans sweep. What do you think is going to happen? And conversely, if the Democrats do sweep, because I think it's going to be a sweep either way this year. I mean, I really do. I think that's where the momentum's going.
They usually pull the big lever. But I don't know that it really, honestly, matters that much. I mean, historically, we have like right now. Most judges are Republican. We're talking about in the criminal courthouse, and we have some really good judges. And I don't want them to get beat. I want them to stay.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say their name because if I say nice things about them, that'll be used against them.
Sure.
We have some very fair Republican judges, which is something I thought I would never say, but it's true. And we have had Democrats get elected to be judge who have been complete schnooks. And they run again. They keep running, and you want them to just go away, go find a job someplace else, because you take how somebody is as a lawyer, and then you reduce them one notch, and that's how they'll be as a judge. Okay, it's not like people get better when you empower them.
Right. Exactly.
No, I'm a Democrat, obviously, but that doesn't mean that I don't support. I never vote for people based on party affiliation in any judicial races. You shouldn't. If you don't know who the person is or anything about him, you shouldn't vote in that race.
Exactly.
I think we shouldn't really have party affiliations. And in the past, on judicial races, and in the past, they've tried to get rid of it. But Racehorse told me the reason that couldn't get rid of it is because in the small counties, they wanted to have party affiliation because the party affiliation of the local judge, the district court judge, whatever he was, everybody else wanted to be because they would all get elected.
Yeah.
So the smaller counties didn't want to give up party affiliation for judicial elections, and we really should because it has nothing to do with qualifications.
It seems to me a clean sweep either way is bad for the criminal justice system.
Yeah, we could lose some really good judges.
Well, and not only that, but you kind of need to have some balance, I feel like.
We have enough judges or benches in Harris County that, we're always going to have some good judges, and we're always going to have probably some really horrible judges. That's just the way it is.
Well, but
I prefer federal court, actually.
Yeah.
Because generally in federal court, we have really good judges.
Yeah. And they're not under political pressures to make decisions.
And they're there. Yeah, they don't have to worry about that.
They just do their job.
And the district attorneys or the prosecutors don't live in their courtroom.
Yeah, that's.
I mean,
some of them get banned from their courtrooms. In fact.
Well, maybe the public doesn't realize it, but in Harris County, in Harris County, there's 3 prosecutors assigned to each court for a certain period of time. And so they get to be all pals with the judge and with the court staff. And so as defense lawyers, when we go in there, it's like they have the home court advantage, and we're sort of treated like the invaders or something, and like, and not in every court, but in many courts, that's the way it is. And it creates an unfair advantage for the prosecution, where in federal court that doesn't happen. Federal prosecutors, they're not assigned a particular court. They get assigned a case, and it might go in any different court. So we're, even the law in federal court is horrible.
Yeah. Be rev limited by the judge.
Yeah,
The
but we don't have the prosecutors don't have the home court advantage that they have here.
Now, is that because you think it's district attorney policy on how they assign people to courts, or do you think it's something that could change, or is it?
No, I think they'll continue to do that for the foreseeable future. They've been doing that for a long time. For I think the last 3 DAs they've done that. I think even before Holmes they were doing it, and it makes sense in a way. They need to assign prosecutors to the courts because every court's going to have so many cases. But the fallout is bad, I think, in a lot of ways, because it does create this. I mean, it used to be actually worse because there used to be more ex parte communications between the DAs and the judiciary on cases that were in that court. That still goes on all the time. We know it. They discuss which cases are going to come to trial. They talk about it while we're not there, and it varies from court to court.
Yeah. We've reached the halfway point of the show. It's 8:30. We're going to open up our phone line, 713-807-1794, the number. We got it down there at the bottom of the screen. We also have our Twitter up at HCCLA_TV, and we're going to take our first phone call right here, right now. Hello, welcome to Reasonable Doubt.
Yeah, I'd like to ask the panel when the probable cause hearing will open up to the defense attorneys, and when that happens, if there's going to be any diminishment in the status of the bail bondsman community. If your attorney in a probable cause hearing can get you out without a bondsman, wouldn't that mean less business for the bondsman? But basically, when is it going to happen that the defense attorneys will be admitted to the 15-17 hearing?
Great question. Thanks for the call. I have not heard officially. I know the PD's office has been really trying to get that instituted, to get somebody there, but I'm not sure. And in fact, ironically, the other day, a young lawyer that I know up in Waco, who's kind of transitioning and opening up his own practice, was working at a civil firm, so he's taking some criminal cases. A friend of his got arrested, and he wanted to go to the initial appearance. I said, "Hey, I need you at the bond hearing." He shows up at the jail, and the guards don't even know what to do with him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how rare it is that a lawyer shows up at these things. Have you guys heard when it's going to start? No,
I've heard that the I know the public defender's office has been pushing for it, and what I heard was that it was part of this package of reform that we're supposed to be getting. That's sort of ambiguous, that the county is working on, and as part of that package of reform, there's supposedly going to be more PR bonds, which I'll believe it when I see it. But the bondsmen absolutely oppose people getting PR bonds because they think that it will eat into their pocket, and it might. But for 25 years, we've had systematic denial of PR bonds by the judiciary, and that's caused a lot of horror, and it's caused the plea mill and all that ugliness that we've talked about before. And it continues to this day. You go down to the courthouse and you'll see people denied PR bonds and are pleading guilty to get out of jail.
Yeah.
Because they're too poor to afford a bondsman. That person would not cost the bondsman any money because that can't afford a bondsman anyway. The bondsmen can be pretty greedy.
Unfortunately, that seems to be a broken record that we always talk about on this show.
Yeah, well, I've been talking about PR bonds, the denials, systematic denial of PR bonds for a long time.
You've been championing that cause for quite a while.
Yeah, and it hasn't gotten anywhere.
I think we got another call hanging on, so let's drop it in here. Hello, welcome to Reasonable Doubt.
Hi, I had some comments about Manziel and a question.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm an Aggie, and I think they ought to take the Heisman away from him. He's just been really an embarrassment. But I think his problems go way beyond what we're aware of because, as I'm sure you know, his dad recently said he hopes he goes to jail.
Yeah.
Because he's afraid he might end up dead. The thing that I didn't quite understand, the NFL suspended him for 4 games, but he isn't on a team. So does that mean that it's going to follow him to whatever team he goes to?
That's my understanding, that if he does sign with the team, they know full well he's going to have a 4-game suspension.
It might take him that long to sober up anyway.
Right.
So, you know.
But is it not an issue? I mean, will that not then make it difficult for him to get a job?
Probably.
I think it could. I mean, he's not exactly a top-level quarterback. Unfortunately for him, he's not Tom Brady level. So he's not.
No, of course not. But what I mean is, if a team were to take him, and he's got this 4-game suspension, perhaps that would be enough for them not to take him. And if then that 4-game suspension keeps him from getting employed, is that not a problem? Because if he was with the team and he got a 4-game suspension, would be a whole different thing. But the idea that now
I think it's within the power of the NFL to do that, though.
It is. Completely is.
Whether he's employed or not.
Yeah, because of the labor agreement. I mean, he's subject to. Yeah. Because he has had at least one NFL contract, he's subject to that labor agreement.
I think that's true.
Yeah. So, great question. Thanks for the call. I mean, I hear a lot of Aggies say that
they want to take away the Heisman, huh?
Yeah, they want to take away the Heisman. They're ashamed at what he's
Aggies
done.
A&M's a very proud school, and they, got the core and they do things, they do things by the book. And this guy was a school hero, and now he's completely gone from hero to GOAT, and it's a shame. I mean, he's obviously very talented. And we're joking about it, but it's a shame to see the the damage that drugs, alcohol, whatever causes. I mean, most of the time when people have a drug or alcohol problem, they're self-medicating and they have some other issue. And I wouldn't be surprised if he had psychological issues. It's, he's a public figure, so I guess we can talk about him. But it's, it is a shame, really. I mean, what a waste.
It really is. We got another call. Hello, welcome to Reasonable Doubt. Thanks for your call.
Yeah, I taught English in China for a couple of years, and I guess one of the ways they deal with people is police will investigate a crime, and then once they arrest you, that's a kind of, you're guilty, and of course you go to prison. But they go through the court process, and the judge just basically stamps approval of what the police did.
Mm-hmm. So it's just like Texas, basically.
But here they asked me, how come in the United States do you put people in prison and then determine whether they're guilty or not?
Well, ideally, on paper, it's not supposed to work like that.
Bond is supposed to be, people are supposed to be allowed bond. People have a constitutional right to a reasonable bond. You're
presuming maybe some sort of guilt there.
I'm not presuming any guilt. What you're talking about is the system.
They shouldn't have any bond because unless they prove that they're guilty.
No, what the system provides for is that if somebody's charged with a crime, that they have to post a bond to ensure that they will come to court. That's what bond is about. But it's not supposed to be used to oppress people. It's not supposed to be used to keep them in jail. In Harris County, it's used to oppress people and to keep them in jail so that people will plead guilty. They're kept in jail because they can't make the bond or they're not given a PR bond, so they end up pleading guilty to get out of jail on misdemeanors because they'll end up spending more time in jail fighting their case. So especially on misdemeanors, a lot of people that are lower income will plead guilty because they can't afford the bondsman, so they plead guilty to get out of jail because that's their way home. That's their way to achieve liberty is by pleading guilty. And it's completely wrong, and the people responsible for it are the judges completely. It's in their lap. They could change it overnight, and they make up all kinds of excuses, and their excuses are all baloney. And that's why they're being sued right now in federal court, which is about time.
Yeah.
I wonder how that's going. Any updates on that?
No. I mean, it's going to proceed like any other civil lawsuit, real slow.
It's going to take some time.
But thanks for the call. It's interesting because as much as people talk about the legal system and the failures of it, and we harp on it all the time. I mean, we're sitting here talking about wrongful convictions and the shamefulness of the bond situation. I got to tell you, I'd rather have our legal system than some of the other ones in the world. I mean, like he's saying, you're basically, it's a rubber stamp job in China.
Yeah, but it's, it's not a, I'm sorry.
No, well, I was gonna say, just recently in Mexico, they're starting jury trials.
Yeah.
I mean, those things haven't happened.
We should not compare ourselves to the dictatorships of the world.
No.
We're supposed to be the leader of the free world, and in many ways we have failed. And here we're about to celebrate our 240th anniversary, and we end up comparing ourselves to some of the worst regimes in the world, like China.
Yeah.
And that's not fair. We should compare ourselves to what we're supposed to be.
I agree.
And we have failed in many ways. And there's many successes in the criminal justice system. I mean, one success in the criminal justice system, and I hate to point out any of them, but one is that there is an honest effort being made in different areas to try to find those people that were wrongfully convicted and for them to be exonerated. And that's a good thing. That's a good development that we didn't have 10 years ago. But the fact that they were wrongfully convicted in the first place is but we should compare ourselves to what would be our best, not the worst systems in the world.
Well, let's talk about one of the other problems of our criminal justice system that we harped on last week, and that's the continued erosion of our Fourth Amendment rights, which is just
the what?
The continued erosion.
No, but I'm not familiar with that Fourth Amendment.
Yeah, I know. It seems to be a
That
bygone
was something
conversation.
I remember, but that was like back when I Love Lucy was on TV.
And I remember reading about it in a
By the way,
book.
she was a snitch in Hollywood. She was. That's what I'm told.
Yeah.
She was a snitch?
Yeah. A lot of those actors were.
She was a confidential informant for the FBI.
Well, no,
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
talking about
right.
during the McCarthy era.
Yeah.
Right.
That's someone told me. They swear up and down. They should know. But yeah, the Fourth Amendment is. You look at it this way. The Bill of Rights says, we're supposed to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures, and then we learn in law school that there's 4 million exceptions to that the police can do this and this and this.
It's like hearsay.
And then we become lawyers, and then we learn that there's even 4 million more, and then we learn that even if you can prove that it was an illegal search, and you got it right there, and you go to court and you prove it's an illegal search, and the cop gets up there and lies, the judge, a lot of our judges will go, I find the officer credible, even though what he's saying is incredibly, no sane person would believe it, and the judge smiles at you while they say they find the officer credible when he says, yes, I smelled marijuana in his car while he was driving on the freeway at 80 miles an hour 2 blocks from me, or whatever.
And they don't find any marijuana.
Yeah,
they don't find
well,
anything.
it's just an excuse to get in the car, though. It had nothing to do with the fact that they were black and they were riding 4 deep.
The most recent hit comes this week. It's from a federal district court in the Eastern District of Virginia, which is the bastion of unfairness in federal court. Rocket dockets don't give people adequate time for discovery. But what happened here is just crazy. The FBI seizes a server that in 2014 that is a known host of child pornography. And then what the FBI does is they continue to operate that server. And they load all this malware on it, and they start sending out malware to infect people's computers as they're coming in to access the server. And so it's sending all the data back to the FBI. It's sending the IP address, it's sending the home address location, everything, all the information about this person is coming straight back to the FBI. And this district court in Virginia says, no reasonable expectation of privacy in a computer in your own home. What? What?
Yeah. Well, we live in an era where, as you just said, Jimmy, that the Fourth Amendment has become basically meaningless. That the police can do pretty much what they want when it comes to searching. They can take our blood, they can take our pee. Pretty soon they're going to be able to drill a hole in our head and take a hunk of our brain. And the Supreme Court will say that's fine because you were on the street. It's a privilege to keep your brain in your head, and if you're going to walk on the street, you're giving up that privilege, and DPS can drill into your head and take a hunk of your brain to make sure that you didn't eat candy yesterday or whatever the hell.
You didn't think about smoking marijuana.
Yeah, your thoughts.
Yeah, we're going to try and access your thoughts.
Yeah.
Hopefully this gets to the Supreme Court, and hopefully they
I don't know. They're a dangerous bunch.
They really are. But this is just, I mean, can you imagine the implications?
I'd like them to
of
go
the
on a
Supreme
trip
Court?
for a few years.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, at least the Fourth
maybe a
Circuit.
rocket ship or something.
Right. Well, at least the Fourth Circuit that is up there, they do have some sense over that. So maybe the appellate court here will reverse this. But I mean, damn,
Well,
this is.
I know they're a bad court, but I still take a lot of pride in the Fifth Circuit has got to be the worst court in the entire universe. I mean, I'll put the Fifth Circuit up against anything they got in China as far as being right-wing, dictatorial, and eliminating all civil liberties.
Yeah.
They take the cake.
They can. I mean, they were basically the ones who said, you know, well, your choice is if you don't want to have your cell phone searched, don't buy a cell phone.
Yeah.
You can. It's
When the Supreme Court of the United States says that the Fifth Circuit's ruling is too conservative, that tells you something about the Fifth Circuit.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Well, I mean, and this is troubling because in this case, you know, I mean, and this is always the problem with cases like this, is you have clearly the most unsympathetic defendants of all time.
Yeah, but that's never the issue. Because the rights, as you know, and as our public knows, is that the rights are only good if we protect them for everybody. If we don't protect them for the most creepy person out there, then they're not any good for the rest of us either. I mean, the people that get charged with crimes, yeah, a lot of them are creepy people, but also innocent people get charged with crimes. So if we're not going to protect the rights for everybody, then you're only going to be free if I'm free.
Well,
basically.
Think about it. I mean, you allow unfettered access to people's computers and just say, the FBI can do it. I mean, can you imagine the potential for abuse that's out there? I mean, what if an FBI agent gets all this information, they're just trolling the neighborhood, and an FBI agent is friends with, you know, a spouse or something like that, and they're looking for evidence to use in a divorce case, and they say, hey, you know what? I can.
There will be that abuse too.
Exactly.
You know, when you empower government officials, these are human beings. And there's so much abuse that goes on that we don't even know about. I mean, we hear about a certain amount of abuse, but there's a lot of abuse that goes on with the powerful government that we have that we don't even have a clue.
Well, just recently, I think a ex-HPD officer got sentenced to,
30 years in prison.
30 years for running plates, giving weapons, helping transport.
That's on the dope.
It's on dope.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and he operated and did this for a time, and with and used his badge to do it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, and we didn't even know. That's just one we know about.
Right.
I wonder if, going back to this case with the computers, I wonder if there was any rationale of them saying, like, well, you have no reasonable expectation in the items that were seized or in the quote-unquote contraband, so therefore we can look into your computer, much like we have no right to privacy in drugs, in our luggage.
The basic substance of it was that you have no reasonable expectation of privacy in your personal, at least as to this defendant, that he did not have a reasonable expectation of privacy in his computer in his own home.
You know, and you take it to the logical extreme. It's like, well, if you are in social media, therefore you surrendered any expectation of privacy simply because you participate in Facebook or Twitter or any of those things. You have let the world, including the FBI, into your house, into your world, into your brain, into your grandchildren's brain, into your unborn great-grandchildren's brain. And forevermore.
Which is very clear what you posted on, right? I mean,
where's George Orwell when we need him?
Exactly. Well, and this is kind of, I mean, it's very timely because tomorrow, of course, you are leading the charge for us. You always have on this. This is the 7th annual reading of the Declaration of Independence. For those of you who are interested, starting 11:30 tomorrow morning.
Sharp.
Lawyers from the Harris County Criminal...
When Joanne says 11:30,
promptly.
11:30, yeah.
Lawyers from the Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association will be alternating reading. Is it sentences or paragraphs? How have you divided it?
We divided the Declaration of Independence, I divided it up in 38 parts.
Okay, so we'll have 38 lawyers reading the Declaration of Independence right outside the Criminal Justice Center, a.k.a. the Criminal Courthouse, located at 1201 Franklin, at the corner of San Jacinto
and the public is
downtown.
welcome.
And everybody is welcome to come. But
this year we've gone a little bigger.
You have, and it's because of you that this thing has grown.
Thank you.
It has grown from our little corner of the world to now covering every county in Texas.
That is true.
Is it everyone now?
Yeah, we
Every
had
single county.
this year. There's 254 counties in Texas. We were supposed to learn that in 7th grade. I didn't learn it then, but I know it now. And we have 254 counties, and actually we have 254 counties, but Texas Criminal Defense Lawyers Association, that's who I'm working with on this. We've organized 257 readings, so we actually have exceeded that because there's 2 counties where we have 2 readings. Maybe the different sides of the county. In Bandera County, there's 2 readings, and in Grimes County, there's 2 readings. Plus, we're having a reading in Big Bend, not just in the county seat there, but also at the Big Bend itself. So, and these are mostly going to transpire tomorrow. They're all led by defense lawyers across the state. So I'm very proud of it. And there was last year we had 139, which was it took a lot of effort, and we were able to get all 254 counties this year to have readings of the Declaration because this year I got a little smarter and I got a dozen volunteers across the state in different regions of the state. You mentioned Jim Darnell earlier in El Paso. He's one of our organizers, and we have organizers in different sections of the state, and that's how we were able to conquer Texas.
And I think it's great because over the years, people, lawyers from HCCLA, if they've been in another city or another state or even overseas,
right,
they will read.
Yeah, we've had readings
the Declaration.
You're absolutely right. We've had readings in England, in London, and Iceland, and Mexico, and as part of this, also, we got people to start readings in other parts of the United States. Right now, there's a reading in San Diego every year, and they were following our lead, and so we're very proud of that. And it's for the public, but it's also for the defense bar because it's something that unites us. That we are the heirs of the founding fathers. We're the only people, other than soldiers, who daily fight for liberty. So we're the natural heirs. Some of these political parties, these right-wing political parties, wrap themselves in the flag, and that doesn't make them patriotic. We're the ones that are fighting for liberty. We've inherited the Declaration. It's ours to make sure that it's followed, and it's not, but that's why we keep fighting. That's
As
why
evidenced by our previous conversation, it's not really being followed.
No, it's not.
The other thing that people may not know is that our courthouse didn't even get copies of the Declaration of Independence and Constitution.
Yeah, you're right.
But for a few years ago even.
What happened was in 2006, I was in federal court, and I came over to state court, and I looked around, and our courthouse was built in 1999, and of course they put the commissioners' names on the front of the courthouse. Naturally, they got that up. But when they built the courthouse in 2006, I came over and I observed that there was no Constitution or Declaration Bill of Rights. So I talked to the judge, and our organization paid for those 3 documents. And in fact, our organization paid for, the Criminal Defense Bar paid for the Declaration, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights to be put up in the criminal courthouse, the civil courthouse, the juvenile courthouse, the old courthouse, and the jury assembly room. We paid for it to be in all 5 of those locations, and our dues paid for those. We had them nicely framed, and they're up and on display. And not once did anybody in the county think to put the Constitution up in one friggin' courthouse in this county. And that really kind of tells you a lot about the county fathers and their sensitivity toward constitutional issues, and the judiciary, because they moved into the courthouse. They made sure that they had 2 elevators, but they didn't make sure that there was a Constitution hanging in anywhere.
There was a little beef on Twitter with the Texas Commission of District Attorneys, whatever their association is.
Texas County and District Attorneys Association.
There it is. I haven't committed to memory because it's not an organization I'm part of. But a little spat on Twitter about what did they say? Something. Did you see it?
Yeah, I think I saw what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, where they said they need to get out there and read something that's not the law. And I think
they were trying to.
They're talking about this.
About
thing?
the Declaration of Independence.
They were trying to mock us for reading the Declaration, which just shows their. I think they were trying to be funny. But
I think they were too.
This is not a group that's very good at being funny. You know, they should just stick with being boring. They're better at that.
and I think Mark Bennett's comeback was, "What, you want us to read the penal code?"
Yeah, and they threatened to read the Constitution, and actually I thought, well, you know what, that might be good.
Yeah,
they probably should read the Constitution.
Maybe learn a thing or two.
Maybe they can learn a thing or two by reading
that's a place for them to start.
You know, I mean, you're very passionate about this.
That's what the ladies say. I'm gonna get in trouble now.
You can't get in trouble on this show.
No, I told my mom I was gonna be on TV.
You can't get in trouble.
Mom, I'm sorry.
You can't get in trouble on this
I
show.
didn't mean to embarrass the family name, but our name is Fickman. I mean, that's embarrassing enough. Okay?
I mean, given the motley crew.
No, I'm not embarrassed by my name, but okay.
Given the motley crew of people that we've had on this show over
Yeah.
over
This is
2
the
years,
best. This is the best.
you can't get in trouble. Trust me.
I've been on this show.
But for you, being the one who leads this charge and really, is out front. I mean, you're constantly posting on it. You're constantly emailing people about it, and the passion is there. And I see it every day in your legal work too. You're passionate about your clients. You're passionate about fighting for them. How troublesome for you is it just to see the direction with what's going on with the Fourth Amendment? Just in general, how personal is it for you to see the problems going on?
Well, I practiced law for 33 years, which is interesting since I'm only 26. And I guess I would just say, short answer is, of course I'm troubled by the direction of our country. But this didn't just start yesterday. We had the Rehnquist court. Now we have the Roberts court, and it's the Roberts court. And I mean the pendulum swing in the legal system, especially if you live in Texas, has always pretty much been to the right. I'm troubled. I think that people don't think long term about what they're doing to our country as they eradicate our constitutional rights. And the day will come when I'm sure you both have had people come into your office and go, "What do you mean that that's legal?
Yeah.
What do you mean that the guidelines what do you mean there's no parole in federal court?" And you go, "Well, you voted for the sons of bitches, and that's why we have these laws." And then maybe they think, and then all of a sudden they get radicalized, like, "Oh, well, we need to do something about that," but it's too late.
It's kind of like tort reform. They don't care till it happens to them.
Right. It's a concern.
Yeah, it is. Well, we're running out of time, man. We're getting to the end.
You have 1 minute according to the
We just said
thing.
30 seconds. What do we have?
30
1
seconds.
minute or 30 seconds? Keep it going.
Wrap it up.
I think
Well, I was born in a small town.
a long time ago in a galaxy
Galaxy
far,
far,
far
far
away.
No, you guys are doing a great job on the show, and as a former host of the show, I commend you for carrying on and actually improving the show and allowing some of us guys that used to be on the show to come back. I like the fact that you get a lot of, like I said before the show, you get a good cross section of people on here, and I think that makes it a better show.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, and like I said, I just
now that we've complimented each other a lot.
Yeah, I know. We're very passionate about this. But that's all the time we got for tonight. So want to thank you for coming on. And Julio, we're going to be back next week. Or no, are we off next week? No, we're still on for next week.
I think we're on.
We do have a show next. We do have a show next week.
Well, have fun.
Gentlemen. So we will be back. Enjoy your 4th of July holiday, everybody, and good night. We'll see you next week.